Hi, everybody, and welcome to another uh, podcast in the series with Connie Rose, happiness coach. And today, Connie Rose is going to talk to us about questioning. The topic is questioning and the idea of, what should you question and how do questions help you grow, I guess. So, do you want to take it from here for us, Connie?
Yeah, well, I just think questioning is always really, really important to happiness and self-growth, because without questioning like what's going on inside you, we can be conditioned to believe certain things. So like things that our family have told us or society. And we can go through life thinking that this is like the only way to do something or the only way to be, until we really like take a look within and question your beliefs. So for example, like I I thought that addiction would last forever because I was told that, and like all like the anonymous groups told me that the craving wouldn't go away. So I believed that until I really started to question that narrative that I'd been told. And then now like studying deeper into addiction and beliefs, and especially confirming this with Stanford University, like we really don't know that much about the brain yet. We are still so early in understanding really how the neural networks are formed and how malleable they are. And dopamine was only discovered in 1957, I think. So it's still like we're still so early about understanding things. And so in that process, if we just accept everything that we are told without questioning, no advancement in science is ever going to happen. Like, and any advancement in society and science has been because of questioning.
Got it. And I think the journey of self-improvement starts with some form of questioning, right? It's like, is this all my life is supposed to be? Am I as happy as I could be? Could I be happier? What should I change? Those kinds of things start people off, right? And I think that if you're not careful, you don't question, and you just go through life, and you're just, you know, your little robot working away, trying to keep all the customers satisfied, and the people members of your, when I say customers, I mean everyone, trying to keep everyone
Yeah.
satisfied, and then you end up like snapping or not even listening to your body enough, and then you have
Yeah.
then it all kind of falls apart. So I think questioning is a healthy thing to do, from a physiological thing as well as a mental thing, right? To sort of stay, um, am I taking care of myself enough? Am I, all of those things. So what do you think, what questions do you think people typically come in and see you with? What's the sort of first things that starts this journey and starts the engagement with you?
Well, I think at the point that someone comes to me, they have started to question whether change is possible. So, because without someone that doesn't come to me isn't hasn't questioned that change is possible. So the people that don't question can be stuck in a cycle of addiction or abuse or unhappiness because they are just accepting that that is the way. And so the question that people come to me with is like, how can I change? How can I change? And is it possible? And how much can I change?
Right. And what's your answer to that?
I believe everything's based on beliefs. So I think ultimate change is entirely possible. And the brain is very malleable. And going back to what I said about addiction, is that until I started to really question, hang on, is this true what I've heard about addiction? when I actually really questioned that, that is when the real change happened for me, because that was allowing that question to materialize, allowed the space for me to change my beliefs around addiction, which helped me really set myself free. And now, like, I can take or leave anything. And so that's what I teach people as well. Like, change really is possible, but you have to just start questioning. And also, like, the way I teach is I'll never tell someone like what to think or how to live. I teach people to question within, like, and to do that in introspection, so that they can be their own teacher. So I teach people to be their own teacher.
Right. Awesome.
Connie, your head is cutting off.
My head is cutting off because this keeps moving down.
So,
A little more. Yeah, there you go. Oh,
I think
good.
Yeah, it's because I have to take it up higher, because then it kind of goes, and then it starts going down.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
So,
Yeah.
so when it comes
yes.
to questions, you've got the question of is it even possible for me to be happier? And oftentimes people think of their happiness associated with external things, like the job that they're in, or their circumstances, or things outside of their own control, right? So I think the first important point is, where does happiness come from, as a question? And helping people realize that more is within their control than they realize. And it's not just a question of how fortunate they are, how rich they are, how much they love their jobs, or other things, right? There's a lot of control that you can take internally when you question the narratives that you've been told.
Yeah, entirely. Yeah.
So somebody would come to you with a question like, or really it's just a question of someone coming to you being unhappy, and you're saying, well, have you questioned these beliefs that you have that are keeping you stuck where you are, right? This belief that, oh, I'm always gonna, I can't stop indulging, I'm always going to be this person or that person. And then you kind of get to the sort of psychological reasons, right? Where does that come from? Why do you think that? And what do you provide examples of how change is possible, or do you sort of practice by doing? How do you get someone to challenge those internal beliefs? Like, do you get them to question those internal beliefs, or do you provide examples of, I know someone that came in that thought this way and then did that and ended up here?
Yeah, it's all of the above, really. But we create our personality based on our experiences throughout life, and those experiences we take on those experiences as a type of personality, and then through those experiences and our version of who we think we are, that changes our personal reality and our personal perception of the world. So until you start to question, hang on, am I only this way because of all my experiences in the past? Yeah, there's the nature nurture genetic thing, but so much of who we are is based on our life experiences. So when we really start to question the influences that we've had over the years, perhaps from a parent that told us a certain thing for many years, or maybe you've been in a relationship for many years and been very influenced by their idea, their set of life experiences. And I think a lot of us can be very influenced. And I found this confirmed so much by living here alone. I've been here alone, completely isolated for 2 months now, nearly 2 months. And what I've seen during that time is like, whoa, how conditioned I was by society and the people around me, and like just being here alone and like having the space to really question that. I'm now like seeing my life from a whole different perspective, and like it's almost like I'm floating above like my life in the past and like seeing all the things that I did, and I'm able to question that all now from this perspective and see like, whoa, I didn't need to be doing things that way. And like I was so influenced by people. So, and that's what meditation does. It gives you that space to question, well, who really am I without the conditioning of society and my life experiences? Like, because what is that inner being, that inner core?
Got it. And don't you think that sometimes when people are really stuck in this idea of who they are or stuck within their circumstances, they're not even able to gain that perspective? Like that you might offer up change, but they still somehow make that event fit within their own narrative. And it's like, oh, that isn't real change. That only happened because of X, Y, and Z. So do you think this is like a lot of the things that you practice, something that you have to do with a certain repetition in order for the script to change and for the perspective to change? It's not something that's going to happen instantly, in other words, because they're in their environment. They've got these internal messages that and this self-perception that's taken their whole lifetime to learn. So in order to change that, it's a question of questioning again and again, perhaps, to finally start to see that things can be different.
Yeah, because change is uncomfortable. And so like I help people be comfortable with being uncomfortable and that change, because it is difficult to go through that process of change, but it is that repetition of continuing the questioning of how can I see this in a different way. And it's like I teach people to change the way they phrase things. So instead of like saying, "Oh, I'm a disaster," like, or like when they think negatively, to like catch themselves in that moment. My battery just went. So to catch themselves in that moment and to ask a different question, to say, oh, actually, maybe am I someone that is able to change? Am I able to look at this in a different way? Is this going to be more of a am I actually a successful person in certain areas of my life, and can I build on that?
Yeah. Are there common stages that people go through when they're sort of undergoing a change? Like, is it fear, denial, those common things that people think, oh, sorry, I can't do that to my dog. She's, yeah, sorry about that. So let me ask the question again. Are there common stages that people go through as they're experiencing a change? Like fear and denial and things like that are common amongst people?
Yeah, there's fear, denial, and then you can get people can get on a roll, or anyone really on any kind of growth journey gets on a roll, and so they can start to feel really good and think, yeah, okay, I've got this now, I've got everything good. But what happens in that process is like more stuff will gently will come up, and it can be really uncomfortable again. And so that's the moment to just sit with that pain, and because it's like it's coming to the surface to be released. And so just to learn that growth isn't always a straight line, and when you are on any kind of growth journey, that stuff will come up, but that's like a good sign. It's not like you going back in terms of your growth.
Totally. And does it start, is there a common place where you can kind of start and then build momentum? Because, in order to question and make changes in your life, you might have to change some big, deep, fundamental things that are really core to this person's identity. But perhaps there's a place where you can start with someone on something smaller and then, get to that ultimate goal, of changing that big thing. Is there a common place where you could start with little questions to get people in the habit of questioning and then comfortable with the process of questioning and imagining a better version of themselves? And if they can handle it here, then you can move on to here. Do you tend to do that work with people where you kind of compartmentalize the challenges that they face and start with easy ones first, or you start with the hardest one first? How do you typically approach it?
Yeah, it's definitely starting as in small increments, and just saying like, is there maybe like, one thing I do is like when someone's like, oh no, there's no answer to that, or like, no, I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry about this. They don't know the answer to
You
that.
need to question that monitor of yours.
I know. I say, well, if you did know the answer, what might it be? And suddenly they come up with an answer. So yeah, I think it's about asking different questions and learning to ask the question of, could this be a good thing as well? Could be really helpful.
Be brave enough to answer the question, right? Because if even the question itself can be scary. Like, am I as happy as I could be a really scary question to someone, to think, oh my God, I've got to change what I'm doing if I'm ever going to be happier. I've got to make fundamental changes, and then that might be scary and daunting, and that's why people avoid it. And instead of that, they just stick with their comfortable self, being not moving, right? Not making progress,
Yeah.
It makes
And
you say
it's
change is difficult, it's scary.
Yeah, and it's really hard. The thing is, it's really hard to see the truth when you're not being truthful with yourself. So the people that are like willing to face their darknesses and uncover their real truth, suddenly they start to see the real truth around them. And so that's why like it's really important, I think, to face your own truth, your own darknesses, but it's a challenging journey, but congratulate yourself for being willing to face that and being willing to take responsibility for your actions. Like, when have you like been wrong, like maybe like been hateful, or like done things that weren't in your highest self, like your highest ability of love and compassion and giving.
Yeah. And I think when people are in different spaces, their capacity to question is maybe can be limited or expanded. I kind of think of myself like, I kind of think creative is questioning is a somewhat abstract and creative process. And I know that I need a certain amount of mental capacity and space, and in order to perform that, because if I'm too stressed or too taxed, I'm not going to be able to think creatively, as Dr. B has said before, back to his architecture days, of the fact that, it's a creative process, and without joy, you can't even access that whole aspect of your human being. So
that's right, because when we're in that state of fear and anger, our prefrontal cortex is compromised. So when we're in that state of hate or judging, it's actually harder for us to think clearly. So that's why, like, when you put yourself in a state of gratitude or meditation, you're allowing the connection around your whole brain to be have more connectivity, which means you can see things more clearly. And so that's like why meditation is so great, and gratitude, because it changes your state of being. And then I think it's important to be wary of like when you're ever put into a very high emotional state, because that's how like cults are formed, for example, and that's how real manipulation takes place. That's how sociopaths or psychopaths work, when they love bomb someone, that because they do it to compromise the prefrontal cortex, whether they're doing this unknowingly, I'm sure, but because it puts people into that high emotive state where they can't see things clearly, so they stop seeing like who this person really is and how they are being manipulated.
Yeah.
So it's the same with a cult leader.
Yeah.
Or...
So I guess what I'm hearing from this then is that questioning is a super important phase, and it might be the kind of start of someone's journey in some respect, where they have this nagging feeling that they could be happier, or they've got this question about, am I living it right? What can I do? That kind of thing that wants them to self-improve. But then perhaps they need to take a step back and to say, firstly, let's really relax and let's really kind of, de-stress, and then we can get back to the questioning in a much more freer form and open and creative, because now you're able to truly question, and because you're not in this kind of fight or flight, primitive defensive mode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
well, that's interesting for us. That's interesting for us as the kind of JoyScore developers to kind of program out where questioning fits in this journey for users. It might be the thing that starts it, but then maybe you come back to it. Maybe you do some activities first that help, bring down the defenses and open up the mind a little bit and relax, and then get back into the questioning phase of, again, let's get back to what brought you here, what you're looking to achieve on your journey of self-improvement, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, get people into that open space to be able to question, because then we're not living in a primitive state of reaction rather than reflection.
Yeah. And then maybe compartmentalize the questions into, things that are fundamental and core and maybe difficult for people to address, versus the easier dominoes. And let's knock down some easier dominoes first, where, change is possible, change is close. And then, we can get to these bigger issues that are maybe root causes of their happiness or unhappiness. But first, let's make some progress, and let's get in the habit of questioning a reality and seeing an alternative outcome, and then having that reinforced. So that, you did it over here and it worked. So now it's time to do it over here, where it might be more challenging.
Yeah.
So that's a very important part of our life, Not just that, at any given time to be able to question, because it starts the process of analyzing and understanding yourself.
Yeah, and I think that me personally, I think in my life, I have put my head down and just worked and just seen things exist in a certain way, and sort of said to myself, that's the way it is, and that's the way kind of life is, and then just crushed along. And then you kind of hit a wall where your body says, no, stop, or you can't exist like that. You actually have to question, and and fundamentally you have to question, like, is this bringing me happiness? Is this bringing me joy? Because you only get, I believe you only get one dance on this planet, so you might as well make the most of it. And if you're kind of toiling away in a fixed universe, because you think that your universe has boundaries and walls, then ultimately you're not going to be as happy as someone that like stops and thinks, what are all the possibilities here? And do I have to believe this dogma that I've been told? Or is there an alternative path over here that takes me away from all of this stuff and gives me a whole new horizon of opportunities?
Yeah, exactly. Because you find often like it takes something like an illness or an accident to get, or a death of a friend, to get people to question their life and question what they really want to get out of life. And so I say, please don't wait for that. Like, let's not have to wait for that. Or like, when you don't want to be on your deathbed asking the question, God, could I have done it differently?
Yeah.
Like, did I make the most of life?
Right. Well, I think we can end it there. That's a very deep and poignant point, but I think that's the ultimate question, right? That we're all here is to make sure that we're getting the most out of our life, to be doing the necessary work on ourselves to make that happen. And if you're, what we kind of learned today, that maybe your journey of self-improvement starts with a question, but in order for those questions to grow, and for the questions to be the right questions, you have to get yourself in the right state of mind.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah.